everyone. Welcome to episode 46.
Hey.
It's kind of crazy. We're more than halfway through this season already. Hope everything is going great. I hope you've been enjoying the episodes that you've been hearing so far. And again, thanks for all the feedback. Once again, if you haven't subscribed somewhere that you know, like YouTube or
Twitter,
Twitter, what have you not, please do so. If you can leave a comment on somewhere where you follow the podcast, please do so as well. Recommend it to a friend, so on and so forth. Okay, let's get going.
Okay, so in the news, climate change deniers may want to listen carefully. And Madagascar is facing one of the worst droughts in 40 years. Rising temperatures, there's been little rain, which has led to crop failure, and there is food insecurity in Madagascar at the moment, with 1 million people being food insecure and about 400,000 people on the brink of famine. Now, Malagasys are dying of hunger. There have been sandstorms which have basically led to lands being barren. They're not suitable for cultivation of crops, and basically everything you plant just dies. Now, unfortunately, many of these people have resorted to eating cactuses, which they say are horrible. They're eating nuts, so they're cracking nuts and eating the inner white part of the nuts. But the worst of it all is that some people are eating leather. So they're going to people, people who are making shoes or sandals, and then asking them for the bits of leather. They're boiling them, they're grilling them with salt, and they're eating them. And they're saying that it's really, really horrible for their stomachs, but they've got no choice.
Wow.
And the UN has estimated that Madagascar will need about $78 million to provide food help. Now, worldwide, 41 million people in 43 countries are at imminent risk of famine. And these 4 countries are Ethiopia, Madagascar, South Sudan, and Yemen. Now, parts of Nigeria and Burkina Faso are also at the risk of famine. Now, climate change, wars, economic shock, and of course COVID have all contributed to this unfortunate phenomenon. Now, as I probably have mentioned, I don't know, in the episode 41 or 42, the prices for food stuff have risen sharply. And there's talk that this has been the highest increase in a decade. And while cereals, dairy products, meat and sugar are up 40%, global maize prices have increased by 90%.
Wow.
In the last years. And I remember, like I said, talking about the maize shortage, even here in Tema, in episode 41. Poultry farmers are lamenting. The projected maize was projected production of 3 million metric tons in 2020 in Ghana, and we got only 1.8 million tons. So that's a huge loss. Again, the rain patterns, fertilizer shortage, all this snowballing to a lot of issues. In addition to the bird flu, it means poultry farmers are losing out. Your eggs are going to increase, maize issues. Your kenke is going to increase, the cost of kenke, banku, all those things. I mean, maize is a staple here, so it's going to affect us greatly. And if you've been to stores or the market recently, you will have noticed that there's a significant increase in the prices of foodstuffs. You might think, okay, we're doing okay. But this is very, very concerning. The fact that there's even a shortage of certain foodstuffs it's really concerning. And I guess it's not difficult to see that people are really struggling. COVID has made things worse.
Right.
So what I would say at this point, that if you can try and save money, if you've got some land, plant some contombre, plant some tomatoes. It sounds difficult, but if you give it a try, it really helps. It really helps. If there's hunger, you have to eat contombre for the rest of the time. I guess it's from your garden.
Better than leather, for sure.
Leather, or locusts or cactus. It's really concerning. So there's something to watch out for.
Also, I think it hasn't received quite a lot of high-profile reporting in the news.
It really hasn't, and that's quite surprising for me. Especially when I read this Madagascar story, I said, "Where's this?" In the main headlines, I didn't really see.
Because I hadn't heard this at all.
And it's concerning. It's concerning. It might be Madagascar today, but it could be any other country soon. This is Africa. It could be.
And of course, as they keep saying, the Sahara is growing, and we are where are we? Sub-Sahara Africa. So the northern West Africa, but northern West Africa is already feeling the effects
it's
of,
a problem. It's a problem.
Growing desertification and what have you. So,
yeah, so that's my menu. Something to take note to
ponder on. Thank you. Okay, so mine, the news is going to be interesting. So the British Medical Association recently changed its official stance from opposition of assisted dying to a neutral stance. Now, this was in September of 2021. Now, the Medical Association represents 150,000 medics, and they vote at their annual meeting. Now, this is the first time since 2006 that the vote has shifted from opposition of legalizing assisted dying. Now, this follows the Royal College of Physicians, who in 2019 also voted away from opposition to neutral. And before them, the Royal College of Nurses, way back in 2009, voted away from opposition to taking a neutral stance. Now, what does neutral stance mean? Well, the vote is either a for or against. However, when they don't have a clear majority either way, then they declare it a neutral stance, meaning they're about split in the middle on the topic. Okay, so what is assisted dying or assisted suicide? This is voluntarily ending one's life with the assistance of another. Now, when it's referred to as medical assisted or physician-assisted suicide or dying, it is when you receive professional medical help in voluntarily ending your life. Now, this differs from euthanasia in that euthanasia, somebody makes the choice for you and, to basically end your life. Whereas with assisted dying, you make the choice yourself and they give you the tools or, medicine, whatever you need in order to carry it out in the most painless and ethical way. Now, currently, assisted dying is illegal under English law, but according to an independent report in 2015, about 46 Britons a year go to Switzerland in order to get to be able to die, basically, voluntarily. But this comes at an exorbitant cost, and on average, it costs £10,000 to do it. Now, outside of Switzerland, some other countries where assisted dying is legal under certain circumstances, not just you go in there, right? Belgium, Canada, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Spain, and in some states in the US and in some states in Australia. Now, Austria, Colombia, Germany, and Italy have all legalized it through votes, but have not yet introduced the legislature that will regulate it. So it is legal, but you can't go ahead and do it yet because they haven't published the guidelines.
So I was almost going to say, why is Germany not there?
Oh yeah, because Germans tend to be, right. Now, of course, the main reasons for opposition fall under two categories. You have, professional medical opposition to it typically falls under the fact that it violates the Hippocratic Oath, right? And basically goes against the very essence of their role as a healer, right? Now, of course, the Hippocratic Oath basically says, above all, do no harm. So they feel like it's a conflict of interest with their whole profession to take another person's life. Okay. Now, of course, as you may imagine, the second large source of opposition tends to fall under religious basis where, the official stance of the Catholic Church and some other churches is that no matter what, your life is not your own and it's not for you to decide. It wasn't given to you, therefore it's not for you to decide when to end it, and that is for the Lord to decide. Okay. And then you have the third group who are fundamentally not opposed either way, but have questions about, the scope, right? They feel like it's a slippery slope, right? Because mostly you have to have a terminal illness in order to, even where it is legal, that's the main, you have to have a terminal illness, as in you're going to die anyway and be in significant discomfort. I believe you have to have a significant amount of pain as well in order to be able to carry this out. And, for those people that are just like, okay, where will it end? Today, it's terminal illness. What if next time you have even a chronic illness? What if you say, okay, well, I have high blood pressure and eventually I may have a stroke, so I just want to end my life now or whatever. Like,
where's the line? Yeah,
where's the line? And because it's hard to define these things, they're somewhat concerned about legalizing it. But generally, it's indicative that the tides are changing. And, probably in more countries in Europe, you're going to be able, probably England is coming soon, since now the medical field are all, maybe not exactly turning cartwheels in support, but are saying, listen, hey, at the end of the day, we're going to give you that option, within the bounds of, again, you have to be, declared terminally ill and qualify for it, and so on and so forth. Now, I find this, even though it's a controversial topic, I remember in the 90s, who remember Dr. Kevorkian? That name? He was and of course it was illegal then, but he was called the Doctor of Death or whatever, because he was doing medically assisted suicides or euthanasia in some cases. And of course there was this case, Terry Schiavo, I don't even remember that name. Anyway, she had been in a vegetative state for years or something, and they were, I can't remember if she had wanted to be not, but her family refused or something, and it went to court. I don't remember because I didn't look it up again, but it's always been in the news, this sort of thing. And it's a very interesting topic for me because
sensitive, I guess, as well.
Right. It is but I have always said this, and I've said it to my mom, and I'm saying it here now, so it's out in the ether. So if anything happens and anybody want to play no games, you play this audio. I had told my mom that I do not want to be kept in a vegetative. If I'm in a coma and there's no signs of brain activity, pull the plug. You want me to be there, atrophy, you waste away, you turn into a skeleton. Even if you come out of the coma in 10 years, you won't be able to walk. You won't be able to talk. You won't be able, you probably have lost all your memory, because it's very common. You won't know who you are. You won't even be a person. So I'm like, listen.
Yeah, you don't want to live.
Exactly. First of all, I think you could put it on your driver's license. I know I was an organ donor on my driver's license in the States, but also do not resuscitate. DNR is my thing. If I have a heart attack and I've been deprived of oxygen for
so long,
don't shock me. Why? I've always been very adamant about this. I'm not that kind of person who is going to come with a book having triumphed over tragedy and relearn to. I already have everything I need and I'm struggling. Please, I cannot come back now. Coming to eat with it, learn how to talk, walk. No. But I guess ultimately my philosophy is always like, you should allow people to decide what they want to do. If I, knock on wood, God forbid, were to get cancer and it was terminal, what is the point, I mean, personally, of being in pain? I have watched people pass away from cancer, and it is the cruelest thing you can imagine. It is pain. Exactly every day for months. And for what? Because, sometimes it's stage 4 or stage whatever, it's gonna come. So what is the point?
I think maybe secretly people are hoping for a miracle. So they're hoping that that hope that, maybe if we keep them alive, something is gonna happen. And
and I understand that that's usually the stance that the family take. That even if you were saying pull the plug, you're like, we can never know for sure. Maybe it's happened in 1980 something. Some girl was in and then she came out and she was fine. But what on the other side, you have the larger likelihood is that it's not going to happen. But again, I know people are very sensitive about this, but I'd like to hear your opinion on it. Do you believe in assisted suicide and medically assisted dying, or no? What's your stance on it? So yeah, that's my in the news.
Nice, beautiful. Okay. And with that, we're on to songs of the week. I've got 2 songs for you. The first one is from a lady called Taeko Onuki. She's Japanese. A Japanese singer-songwriter. She was born in 1953. And she initially formed a band called Sugar Babe. No, not those Sugar Babes. No, not those ones. With 2 other musicians. And they split because I guess the sound was not really sounding. So they split up. She has about 30 albums to her name. And I'm not quite sure where I heard the song. The song is called...
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Wow.
The song is called 4 a.m. and I'm not quite sure where I heard it from, but I do remember that when I heard it, I made a note because I really, really liked it. And it's a beautiful song. It's a mix of Japanese and English. It's really like, it's a beautiful song. You have to listen to it. The genre of music she makes is city pop. And city pop is basically Western music adapted by the Japanese. It emerged in the late 1970s and then peaked in the 80s with the arrival of car stereos for some reason. And it's got a lot of jazzy R&B vibes to it. The song is beautiful. It reminds me a bit of Odyssey, Back to My Roots. I'm not sure if you know Odyssey is a really old group. And it reminds me
yes, I know, but I don't know the song, but I know Odyssey.
Okay, and then definitely. I'm sure you know the song. I'm pretty sure you know it. Back to My Roots, and it's probably why I like the song. If you haven't listened to anything today, please go look for Taeko Onuki for it just makes you really happy. I don't know. It's just a really nice song. And so, that's my first song. The second song that I have for you is called Balança Pema, and it's from Jorge Ben-Hor. I don't know, probably heard of him. He's a Brazilian musician from Rio de Janeiro. And if you know the song Mas Que Nada, then you know he's the one who originally actually made that song.
Okay.
And he was singing this song to a small crowd when he ended up being signed. Now, today's song is Balança Pema, and I looked for the translation. Balança means sort of to shake and to dance. Pema, I don't know what it means because I didn't find it. So if you speak Portuguese, please go listen to the song and then come and tell me what it is about. The song is not that long either. It's a minute and 30 seconds or something. So, so around 2015, 2016, I had a phase where I used to listen to Jorge Ben-Hor, like really, like I listened to so many of his songs, Shuba, País Tropical, like so many. I was really into it for some reason.
That's really dope.
And then for some reason I stopped, and then I rediscovered it, and I said, well, you know what, I'm going to share that with you.
Nice.
So those are my two songs, Taeko Onuki with 4 a.m. and Balança Pema by Jorge Ben-Hor.
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Yeah. All right. So I have 3 songs this week, and I suspect that Eddie limits her songs to 2 because she knows I'm going to go with 3 and do the most. I know that this is
balancing everything,
So I apologize for hogging.
No, you don't need to. You don't need to. It works perfectly.
Okay, so again, I got 3 songs this week. The first song is by an artist called Arya Lennox, and it's called Pressure. So Arya Lennox is a singer-songwriter from DC, Washington, DC in the States. And she's the first female signee of J. Cole's Dreamville label. So her real name is Courtney Sinead Salter. She's 31 and she was born in Virginia. So shout outs to the DMV because that's where I lived most of my time in the States. So I'm quite excited about this one. She began uploading music to the internet in 2009. And then she independently released a mixtape and an EP in 2014 before getting discovered by J. Cole, who asked her to do some reference songs for Rihanna, actually. But she eventually signed to Dreamville officially in 2015 and first appeared on their collaborative album that year. Then she released her EP in 2016 called Pho. Or pho, I guess that's the Vietnamese soup. And then in 2019, she released her first album called Shea Butter Baby. And some of you have heard the title song from that album, which is also called Shea Butter Baby because it got some buzz and it's a really good song. So Pressure was released this summer. In 2021, and it's off an as yet untitled upcoming album. And if you know Arya Lennox music, it's basically soulful soul. It's soul with a modern, so I guess it's neo soul, right? And it's really cool. I really like her music, and the song is great. So check it out. Okay, so the second song is one of my favorite songs of all time. And it is one of my, I would say, top 10 emotional triggers. Now, again, as I've been trying to tell y'all, I'm a very odd person.
No, you're not odd.
There are certain things that I will not even name because I know that anytime I hear or see these triggers, I'll cry. cry instantly. Now, this song makes me cry instantly, no matter when, where, when, or why. So I try not to talk about it because in case somebody plays it for me, I'll just disgrace myself in public. But
now I know what to do.
The song is called, and you may have heard it, it's called Moon River.
Yes.
And this is the
Whose version?
This is the Andy Williams version. And of course, Moon River is what we call an American standard. It's a classic song. It's been covered by many artists over the years. It was originally written by Henry Mancini with lyrics by with lyrics by whom? I don't know. Okay, never mind. But it was written by Henry Mancini. And if you don't know who Henry Mancini is, another thing he's famous for is the Pink Panther theme. That's Henry Mancini.
Right.
And the song was written and originally performed by Audrey Hepburn in the movie Breakfast at Tiffany's, which is another classic film that came out in 1961. And it was a huge hit, and it won 2 Grammys at the 1962 Grammys, Song and Record of the Year. And, thereafter, Andy Williams performed it. He was an American jazz singer, and he performed it for the first time at the 62 awards ceremony where it won. And he became associated with it thereafter, and it apparently revived his career because at that point in time, the dominant pop music was a rock and roll, and sort of the jazz singer, lounge singer thing was going out of style. But this song was such a hit that it revived his career. And and there have been covers by Frank Sinatra, Judy Garland, Louis Armstrong, Rod Stewart, Frank Ocean, and Jacob Collier, who I talked about 2 episodes ago. He actually won one of the Grammys he has for his vocal arrangement of this song, Moon River. So, and honestly, look, I'm going to get choked up. I just love it. Let's move on quickly, but I just love this song. It is romance and wanderlust bottled up in a song, and it's perfect to me. And that's my second song. Okay, so my third song this week is by a Nigerian artist called Arya Starr.
You've heard about it.
You have. And it's called Bloody Samaritan. However, the version I actually want to talk about is by Loud Urban Choir. Okay, so Arya Starr's name is Oyin Kansola Aderidigbe. I hope I got that right. Aderidigbe, yes. And she's 19, so very young. She's a singer, songwriter, and model. She was born in Cotonou, but her parents are Nigerian. So she began modeling at 16, but eventually ventured into music, and she uploaded covers to Instagram, and also uploaded her first original song in 2019. Eventually caught the attention of Don Jazzy, who you should know. You should know who Don Jazzy is. And so she eventually got signed to Maven, which is a label he owns. So her debut album came out in August 2021, so very recently, and it's called 19 and Dangerous, and Bloody Samaritan is the lead single of that song. Now, I heard, again, the first time I heard it was actually by Loud Urban Choir. Now, couldn't find too much information about them, but they're based in Nigeria, and they're based at maybe a 30-member or so choir. And they do basically choral arrangements of modern music. So they did a cover of Bloody Samaritan. It's very short, but it's so good that it made me go look up and actually, I think I prefer the loud Urban Choir version better. But it's fantastic. So go check both Loud Urban Choir out, and then check out the song Arya Starr's version, Bloody Samaritan. Now, I just have a quick comment, and I wasn't going to say this because it will come out rude. I'm just like, is Arya Starr one of Thames' sons?
Listen, I was just, right now, I said, doesn't she sound like Thames?
Is that what, you know how Nicki Minaj always says, all you bees are my sons? And labels do that. When somebody is popular, they try and find their version of that person. So you'll find a lot of people are not bootleg, because I don't want to disrespect her artistry or whatever, but I'm just like, That's Thames' son.
When I listened to her, I thought, does she not sound like Thames?
So I think it was strategic. They went and got themselves a Thames.
So I was just waiting for you to finish this and ask you, does she not sound like Thames?
And the look as well. I'm just like, okay, Mavens, you're doing a bit too much. But she's her own person. She's her own artist, and I think we can still enjoy the music. And so I'm going to listen to the whole album. But what I've heard initially, I quite like. So those are my 3 songs this week. What was the first one? My God. Pressure by Arya Lennox, Moon River by Andy Williams, and Bloody Samaritan by Arya Starr or Loud Urban Choir. Okay.
Just to add to that, I actually did have 3 songs today, as you can see here. Yeah, but then I cancelled it because it was last minute and I didn't have enough notes. So I
just say the song.
It was Mike and the Mechanics Over My Shoulder.
Looking back.
Yeah, that one.
Over my shoulder. I love that song.
I love Mike and the Mechanics.
Yes, they're great.
I just didn't know enough in my head about him to come and say.
Still go listen to that song. It's awesome.
We can add that. Why not?
Yes.
Why not? Yeah.
Mike and the Mechanics, hell.
I love. Okay, so then we're on to What the F. So in Austria, a man hid his mom's body so that he could continue to receive her benefits.
Oh no.
So the 66-year-old man hasn't denied this claims, of course.
Wait, but how old was his mom then? If he's 66.
Coming right up. So his 89-year-old mom died of natural causes, and he kept her in the cellar.
Oh my days.
No. This man bandaged the mom, refrigerated her corpse so that he could keep, basically chopping her money. Mm-hmm. And he's been able to cash in a total of about 50,000 euros so far. And he knew that eventually the body would decompose. So he made sure to swap the ice packs and eventually covered his mom's body in cat litter. And so that caused the corpse to caused it to mummify. Now the man also lied to his brother that his mom was in the clinic. He lied to the postman as well, but then the postman became suspicious because he was the one to deliver the benefits to her. So the postman alerted the police, and then they realized that this Mr. here has been accused of benefit fraud and hiding the corpse. It's just really, really weird, and it really reminds me of all the crime. I watched all these crime documentaries, people killing their spouses or killing their whatevers for life insurance.
I mean, at least he didn't kill her.
That's what I was going to say. At least he didn't kill her, but it's just really still bizarre.
Yeah, it is.
The old mom dies, and just because you want to keep getting her money, maybe you don't want to share with your brother, you keep her corpse in the fridge. I think what
terrifies me the most is the fact that people can go from zero, having never even, hit a dog, to literally in the kitchen chopping up a human being into body parts, wrapping up in bags. He's playing around with his mother's body. I don't understand how
I don't get
you can
either.
Go that far. I'm extremely squeamish. I just don't get it.
Either it was desperation or he was really dependent on this money. I don't know what drives somebody to do something like this. I really don't. Your own mother?
How can you even look at her body? I don't know. It's
would you be scared? If it's not for anything, would you be scared that,
exactly.
in the night?
And she's like, you won't let me rest? You won't put me so I can have my soul can be free?
It's really bizarre.
Even at funerals, I try and avoid,
looking at the corpse. I can't. I also don't do that.
I
remember my dad's, sorry, just as a side. I remember my granddad's funeral. I remember one of my aunties saying, go look at the body. Go look at. I'm like, why? So I didn't look at it.
Yeah, you just turn your eye. That's what I do.
Why do I have to look?
But I won't look, because why?
Why? Why do you have to look? What for? So that's my what the F. Really bizarre behavior.
It is. People are, crazy out here. And it's just, some of them you can't predict the crazy, and that's what's terrifying.
That's scary, yeah.
At least if you're killing cats when you're 10, we know.
You know that, okay,
but you wait till you're 60 something and start playing with your mom's corpse. It's crazy.
Exactly.
All right, so on to more insanity here in my What the F, and it is on a phenomenon / movement called Breatharianism.
What? Never heard of this one.
So Breatharianism, or in India, or in India, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but which is fasting in Latin, is the claimed ability of a person to live without food, and in some cases also without water, but instead the person derives sustenance from prana, which is life force, which is an Ayurvedic concept. And according to Ayurveda, sunlight is the main source of prana. Hence, breatharianism or breatharians believe that you can sustain yourself on sunlight and air alone.
Plants over here.
So, surprisingly, breatharianism has been around for quite a while. You have, in the 16th century, an occultist called Paracelsus who claimed to live only on solar energy. You have a Nepalese monk called Bakji who claimed the same and was even the subject of a Discovery documentary in 2006 called The Boy with Divine Powers. And he claimed that he didn't eat, drink, or move for 96 hours straight. But then it turned out that they weren't allowed to actually film him continuously, so nobody knows what he actually did. But he still claims that he's a breatharian and he doesn't need to eat or drink.
I skipped one meal and I'm shaking. How's that? Honestly, how do people manage it?
Now, this same Bakji was later on accused of rape, kidnapping, and violence. So do with that what you will. But one of the most infamous breatharians is a woman whose original name is Ellen Grieve. She's Australian, but she redubbed herself Jasmuheen, I guess to sound more like a guru. And she was very prominent in the 90s, and she claimed that she could live for months just on one cup of tea. So now when interviewers went to her home, they found her kitchen cabinets and whatever stocked to the brim with food.
The clownery.
But she claimed it was for her husband and daughter, not her. So she later volunteered to be observed by 60 Minutes news program in Australia for 1 week. So she was under observation, and then they had a medical team on hand as well. But on day 4, medical advisors suggested or basically demanded that they stop the experiment at risk of liability for 60 minutes because she was severely dehydrated, her pulse rate had doubled, and her speech was slow. So basically she was dying after day 4. So later on, Jasmuheen claimed that the problem was that the air at the hotel was polluted because it was near a road, and that, because she wasn't getting the right kind of air, that's why she was unable to go through with it. Now, whilst there have been a few occasions where people cannot seem to explain, I guess this phenomenon, after having observed some people, you'll find that always there's an issue with the control or with the experiment. Or one guy, apparently he would go out of view to interact with his followers and then come back. So they're like, okay, well, who is to say that they weren't sneaking him
food,
digestive biscuits during that time, right? Although there have been some claims that people say they cannot explain. There was a case in Israel or something like that. But for the most part, these people are exposed to be frauds. Now, this would be something we could all just have a good laugh at, except people have been following these breatharians, and a number of people have died trying this. And one of the famous cases, again, was a woman who was found starved to death in Scotland with the same Jasmuheen's book next to her. And again, there are a number of people who have died attempting breatharianism, basically starve themselves to death. And so, that's my what the F. And I don't know, it boggles my mind
people
how
just follow anything.
People,
really.
exactly. Like, why would you believe that you can... So, when everything about the science now, I'm not saying, because scientists will tell you themselves, they don't know everything. They only know what they know, right? But the mere idea, like, you can tell, like you said, you get the shakes when you haven't eaten all day. You're weak, So to tell somebody, just breathe deeply and sit in the sun, like, seriously.
Come on. Sometimes I feel that also, like, sometimes people just don't want to use their common sense.
They
want to believe in things. I'm one of the first people to follow this kind of thing and I was successful. Come on, sometimes just use your brain.
I know. Now, I don't want to sound judgmental because I feel this way about people that are in cults as well. Like, why? How do you follow some guru and, like, you go and live in some commune somewhere and you're being abused and all that, and you're stuck there saying, but he's my savior? I don't know. But
brainwashing is strong, so sometimes.
But I guess some people are susceptible because you can't tell me nothing, man. Like unless I go and I have to on my own want to. I don't. People to come and talk rubbish, and you're just like, wow, no. But I guess again, I don't want to
oversimplify
the issue, and I understand there's some, people in cults tend to be looking for a sense of family and things like that. So, maybe, people are missing things in their lives that I'm not.
And they're finding it there.
Right. True. Anyway, that's my what the F this week. Breatharianism.
Okay. Right. So we're on to 2 Pesewas. Today, my 2 Pesewas is you make my life better.
Oh.
And no, I'm not about to wax poetic about some lover or partner. This kind of people. Today, I want to talk about relationships in general and how ideally they should make our lives better.
Right.
So, by making lives better, I don't necessarily mean financially, because for businesses or organizations, that might be the first point, the first thought. But do you have a business relationship where you've got reliable work, where you've got unreliable workers, deadlines are never met, or just generally bad vibes? Or are you, as an employee, are you doing the best that you can? Are you contributing your bit to the overall success or well-being of the company? Or are you constantly late, not doing your work, and arguing with anti-vaxxers on Facebook? That's not what your time there is for. I get it that sometimes work can be slow and down, but you're there to do a job. You're doing the work and you're getting the money. So it's a two-way street. Do what you have to do for the overall well-being of the company. Platonic friendships. Are you constantly looking for what you can gain in the friendship, or are you in a friendship so that you can mutually, bounce off each other or make each other's lives better?
I think you had talked about emotional vampires before.
Are you dismissive of your friends' ideas just because they had that great idea and you didn't? So you're jealous and you're
hating ass haters.
Listen, Peaches and I have a great relationship.
Yes, we do.
We don't need to see each other every day. We chat a lot. We rant to each other. She sends the most hilarious and amazing voice notes. They always get me. And Peaches was willing to drive me all the way to some faraway place. I didn't ask her, but that's just what friends do. It's not what I expect of her. But then it's just a beautiful, And I would like to assume that I also make her life better, right?
Absolutely. So don't need to assume. I'm stating here on record.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's the way it is. It's just we just gel. Family. Unfortunately, sometimes we treat our siblings and our mothers and fathers as though they're disposable. As a family unit, you should be able to make your life better. Granted that it's not always the case. We've got parents who are really horrible to their kids. We've got kids who are really horrible to their parents. But then family is one of those bonds which should be the strongest. They're the closest to you, really, when you think about it. So it should be one of the strongest. And some people think it's just about providing material stuff for your kids. It's not about that. If you can't show your children love and care and affection, how do material things matter?
Exactly. You can have all of that, and without the nurturing, you still, your life is empty.
Yeah. Older siblings, your younger sisters are not your slaves. They're not your people to be sending and things. Younger siblings, your older people are not your
bank account.
Come on, let's foster some genuine relationship, not because of what you can get, right? It needs to be balanced and not skewed. And of course, romantic partners. For the love of God, stop treating and this mainly goes now to the men. Stop treating your partners, your wives, as though they're your slaves. It's not fair. How are you making your wife's or your partner's life better if you both are working, you both are splitting bills, and she's doing the cooking, the cleaning, the feeding, the shopping. She's doing basically everything, and then you're doing nothing. How are you making her life better? If that's the reason for marriage, then I think you've got it wrong. Yep. There is no way you're in a partnership and one person is carrying the absolute most in the relationship. Exactly. It does not work that way. You might say, "Oh, but my mom used to do it and she didn't complain." Are you sure she didn't complain? Have you talked to your mom recently? Have you tried to find out how she was feeling in that relationship?
For all those 40 years or whatever you want.
Some of you people assume, and I just feel it's not fair. And this is another whole topic about women carrying the load in relationships, doing basically everything while the men just sit back because they can. I just think it's not fair. I've had discussions with my mom about this because I just feel like I'm just really, really passionate that how can it be that I'm born, I get married, and my duty is just to serve somebody? How is that okay?
And it's not even when you marry. From the time, as you just said, when a child in a girl child in a household, you're basically the pseudo house help there. Like,
it shouldn't be that way.
They look at you like, but who should sweep if not to you? I'm like, others? I don't know.
No, and I'm sure it goes vice versa. But then for the most part, this is how it's structured.
At least in our part of the world.
Yeah, the woman does
everywhere,
everything.
Truly. Domestic work.
Yeah, and more recently, lots of women are working. They're paying equal parts of the bill. So you better do your part in the household.
Absolutely.
Make your lives better. Make your lives better. Don't let it be like this, right?
Reciprocity.
Add a baby to the mix and it's just 10 times worse. Oh, why did now? And my mom was saying this. Then they have the guts to say, this is not about her personally, let me just say. But she was saying that some of you will just be saying, why have you let go of your body?
Oh, yeah.
Why have you let yourself go? When you first, she's doing every single thing.
With a baby tied to her back. And then they're like, oh, my wife is so hard working.
As for me, I eat only fresh things. So I don't eat frozen food.
So
go cook them.
Some people have already accused us of being, I don't know, radical feminists or whatever. But it's not about that. It's just about wanting the best for yourself in the same way that anyone else does. And I guess this brings us to the point where I sometimes for these conversations would like to have a man in the room who can interact. And eventually we're going to get there where we'll try and get guests to come in because some of these topics seem like one-sided because we're saying it. But truly, I don't see why it's going to say that's going to change anything but give them the opportunity to speak. But if you're out there as a man and have some feedback on some of these things,
really
definitely,
because
from my point of view, I just don't see where it's fair. It's not fair.
And when you even think about it, take away religion, take away everything, and think about the practicality of it. How is it fair? This is me. I'm born. I have a brother or I have a cousin who's a boy. We both grow up. We both get married, and then I need to continue to do all these things, and he doesn't. How is it fair in any form or way? Take away everything. How is that really fair? Because
I think we're relying on traditional roles that no longer exist. Because it used to be like, of course, if you're a housewife, sure, you're out there doing this work.
And the man is out here.
And I'm at home doing this other work. And that is equal. Now, I think I may have talked about domestic labor once. And I said that in many cases, the value of the work that you're doing at home exceeds what the man is bringing home with his little 2,000 CDs that he wants to come and lord over you. But that's a different discussion.
If you've ever done housework from the beginning, you know how tough it is. You know how
And then
hard
if you were to put a value on a nanny, a cook, a cleaner, and all that, it adds up. So you actually produce lots of value. But all that aside, now women have, as Eddie said, entered the workforce. So it is not a traditional man goes to bring home the bacon, you take care of the home. We are all bringing home the bacon now. We all arrive at 8:30 p.m. after a long day's work. So then you turn to me and like, so where is the food? I'm going to watch football. Bring it when, like, no.
It's not anything at all. It's just not fair. I'm sorry. It's not fair. Then you can talk about the head of the house,
and you're the neck.
It's not fair. It's just not fair. Sorry.
A partnership is about equal exchange, not about one person using the other one and directing them and telling them what they're going to do and not do. And then you say that's how our relationship works. Well, you're cheating somebody in a relationship that way.
I mean,
you're taking advantage.
Obviously, if you think that works for you and you don't have
by all means,
but then in the large scheme of things, I don't think it's fair. I really don't think so. Right. So let me just wrap up all this to say that in our everyday relationships, we need to sort of review and look back and say, am I making your life better? Are you making my life better? Of course, we all go through things. It's not every day that we are in top form. It's not every day that we can give as much as we want to. But just generally, your relationships should be beneficial. Should be of, they should do something positive for you. They shouldn't be draining you. They shouldn't be making you annoyed and that kind of thing. Of course, partnerships. We all have bad days as well. I mean, there's a caveat to all these things, but. Generally, we should just really try and make all of our lives
That's it. Love it, love it, love it. Thank you. That's it. Now I have closed my book here, forgetting I haven't even done the 2 pesos yet. Just enjoying the discussion. Okay, so my 2 pesos is on a phenomenon called the Dunning Kruger Effect.
Oh, look at you.
Now, see, what I really like is trying to understand, because every single day I find myself asking, what the hell is wrong with you? Like, online, you see people doing things online, you see people saying things, and you're just like, what the hell is wrong with you? And I like to find things that explain it. It doesn't make it any better, but somehow you're a bit like, okay, at least I know where your madness is coming from. So one of my pet peeves is people who are wrong and strong. And you know the ones. They're always talking loudly, arguing back and forth about things that they obviously and clearly and evidently know nothing about. And I feel like generally stupidity is at an all-time high lately. You'll find people arguing, and again, don't want to bring it back to the pandemic or whatever, but you'll find people trying to argue science with scientists. And I'm like, how? Like, where do you get off? Or trying to be telling a doctor, something that as though they know, as if you
I did my research.
I did my research, right? So a lot of this can be explained by the Dunning Kruger Effect. So the Dunning Kruger Effect is named after 2 social psychologists called David Dunning and Justin Kruger, and it is a hypothetical cognitive bias that posits that people with low ability at a task tend to overestimate their own abilities, and that people with high ability at a task tend to underestimate their abilities. So said the 2, the miscalculation of the incompetent stems from an error about the self, whereas the miscalibration of the highly competent stems from an error about others. Okay, so what does that mean? It's just a sophisticated way of saying that you can be so stupid. No, I shouldn't say that, but so useless at something that you cannot even perceive the scope of it to understand how useless you are at the thing, right? And this phenomenon, which is a combination of poor self-awareness and low cognitive ability, is called illusory superiority, okay? So Charles Darwin has a famous quote that says, ignorance more frequently begets confidence than does knowledge. So you find that people who don't know what they're talking about have so much vim. Like,
listen, this happened to me, and I think I remember telling you about it. I'm not going to mention names because somebody was trying to give me advice on something that was totally off. I could tell that this person actually had no experience he had no idea. Was telling me, yeah, do it like this and do it like this. I didn't call them out because I'm like, I'll leave it to your ignorance. It's not worth it. It's just not worth it.
So on the other side of the Dunning-Kruger effect, because it's 2, is both the actions of the incompetent and also the actions of the highly competent. So on the other side, for intelligent people, to quote Socrates, the only true wisdom is knowing that you know nothing, right? So the contrast to the incompetent is that highly intelligent people tend to underestimate their own intelligence because they feel like, again, there's a miscalibration of others. That's what the phrase. They think other people are smarter than they actually are. So then they're like, in comparison, they're like, oh, I'm not that smart. There must be tons of people who know more about this thing than I do. And they're actually incorrect. They're actually more knowledgeable, but because they underrate themselves, so you have this balance between people who don't know anything, thinking they know so much, and people who do have knowledge, feeling like, hey, I'm not qualified to speak about this, right? So let me give you an applicable scenario to clarify the whole thing. Let's say, the topic is, I don't know, anything, any area, let's say chocolate making or something. So person A now, he's read 10 books on chocolate making, right? And he stopped there because as far as he knows, only 12 books were ever written on chocolate making. So because he's read 8 out of the 10, he's like, oh, I'm 80%, I have 80% knowledge on chocolate making. So basically I'm an expert now, right? Then you have person B who has read 100 books on chocolate making and stopped there. And during the course of reading these 100 books, each book references another book. And then to him, what he's come to understand is that there are a total of about 1,500 books on chocolate making, and he's read 100 of them, right? So he's what? Hey, I can't do math. What is it? 15%? It's not 15%. What is it? 100 out of 1,500. Look, I don't know. I don't do math, but whatever. He's not even 10% of the way, let's say, because 10% would be 150. So let's say he's 8%, 9%. He's got, to him, he's accumulated 9% of the total knowledge that exists. Now, in spite of that, he has actually 10 times the amount of knowledge on the subject than person A with his, 8 out of 10 books. So they're both sitting there. Somebody comes in the room and is like, hey, we're reviving TEDx Accra, and we want somebody to come and give a speech on chocolate making. Well, guess whose hand shoots up? Person A, with his 8 out of 10 books read, because in his mind, he is truly an expert on the topic because he read 8 out of the perceived 10 books on the knowledge. Whereas person B is literally shrinking down in his chair because he's like, hey, me, I've only read 100 books out of the 1,005, so I would never call myself an expert, even though somebody's more like, but don't you know? It's like, no, please, I can't go and give a whole speech on it.
It happens a lot here. Oh.
So that's why do you think I said TEDx Accra? It's shade, but I'm not mentioning names. So person B goes to sit quietly in the audience at TEDx Accra. There comes person A on the stage talking absolute rubbish. And you're sitting there like, so how are you on stage? I could have done this and done it 10 times better, right? And again, as Eddie said, which is why I even brought it up, it happens so much in Ghana, and I'm sure other places too, but because we're oriented towards what's happening in Ghana mostly, everybody is an expert. Everybody is an expert. And the minute they open their mouth or you ask them, okay, you say you make these things or you know how to do this creative thing or whatever, and you commission them to do something for you. That's where...
Do you remember? We need to show. Maybe I'll put an insert here. Because
common artwork that we asked to do, and it's weird because people have all these fancy portfolios and stuff, and you wonder, is this even your work at this point? Oh yeah. You won't even finish explaining what you want. I can't do it. I've been doing this for 10 years. Website designers. Whether it's seamstress or whatever, everybody is an expert. Everybody is giving some. Now that Zoom is here, we're even dead. Everybody is giving a Zoom talk on some area.
They say don't be humble. So that's what's happening. Everybody thinks that
you by force. By force. Somebody will be arguing online. I know, I've done my research. Which research? As somebody said, what is in your Google search results that man no see before? What access do you have on the same
looking
internet?
For confirmation of
you
what
read the Wikipedia page on the thing and you decided that you know now the same amount of information as somebody who has spent 15 years in the field. And again, because one side of the Dunning Kruger effect is that the intelligent people tend to not, they don't talk much. Honestly, they're like, okay, well, right? I'm not going to, you go ahead. And then, so these incompetent people literally sit down thinking, oh yeah, I've won an argument. You have your opinion, I have mine. Your opinion is not weighted the same. I don't know who started this thing. One man, one voice, or whatever it is. Like everybody, because you can say something, you say it. Your opinion on a subject is not weighted equally to somebody who has a
lot of experience,
a wealth of experience in this. I don't care. Then go and do your own operations and surgeries or whatever, like whatever it is. Like what is this?
It happens way too obvious. The number of times it's happened to, and it's usually coming from men. That's the most annoying. It usually comes from men.
See, I didn't want to say it because already they say I can't marry because Yes.
And you're telling, do you know me before you're telling me all these things?
Men will be
I was born?
mansplaining things to you, telling you about womanhood and stuff. I'm like, sir.
The funny thing is that I don't call people out. Maybe I should start doing that because it gets on my nerves.
You don't want to pretend as though you know everything. So you just say, I'm not sure that's accurate, but you telling in the interest
of peace.
It's annoying. But I think, honestly, so there are ways, okay, me and throwing this book away. There are ways, the last bit of that was, how can you identify? Because again, a lot of us maybe have some degree of Dunning Kruger in us on one side. Now, obviously, the more problematic side are the know-nothings who come and present themselves as experts. But also, on the other hand, it is damaging if you actually do know what you're talking about, but because you feel like you don't say anything, and you restrict yourself, and you can even limit opportunities that you could have otherwise gotten because you're just literally feeling like, I don't know enough about this, when you do, you know.
That's how old Dr. UN will come and be giving awards to people. And
thank you. That's how you get the Dr. UNs and the NAM ones and all this running around.
Because you have mouth. In Ghana, if you have mouth, you can go places. You can go places, really.
So how do you identify or avoid Dunning-Kruger effect in your own life? One is to keep learning. So there was a quote that talked about intellectual humility. Be humble in your knowledge. Don't presume.
So don't be humble.
Don't presume that you can never learn more, or that the knowledge you have cannot evolve and change. You know, always be intellectually humble. Now, the problem is some people are too intellectually humble, you know, but also keep your mind open. Learn more. Don't think your knowledge is finished. You can never stop learning. Second thing that you can do to be aware or to mitigate Dunning-Kruger effect is to question what you know already. The information I have, is it even accurate?
Yeah, very necessary.
Is the same information that was maybe applicable in 1980 relevant now? Because technology, whatever, everything is evolving, changing rapidly. And just to, again, not to bring it all to the pandemic, but a lot of people have questioned like the CDC and Dr. Fauci and the WHO because they say, 1 minute you told us this, and now you're because the information
at the time.
They work with the information that is available at the time. And the longer the pandemic goes on, the more information they know, the more they understand. Therefore, the advice they give you will evolve and change. But people take that to mean, hey, you must not know what you're talking about because you keep changing your mouth. You keep changing your mouth. You understand? It's please, look. And then one of the key ways to understand or to mitigate or to prevent having Dunning-Kruger effect is to ask other people how you're doing. Don't rate yourself. Ask somebody to rate you. So
people like that too much.
You know, you just come with your own vim. Ask somebody, am I even good at this thing? And let them tell you. Or am I that bad? Because in my case, everything I do, I panic about it for weeks. And I'm just like, I don't think I can do this. And then you go and somebody is just there. Blah, 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 blah. You're like, you know. So my thing is, I always need encouragement that, like, no, you don't. Even this podcast, I think I suck. I have a hard time listening back to things I've said. I have a hard time watching myself because I'm like, you sound dumb. You sound, you know. And then you watch something else on some YouTube trending video of it, and you're just like, oh, you're bad, Sal. Like, I'm not that bad. Like, so ask others for input on how you are doing. Don't self-rate yourself because you could be overrating or underrating yourself. So anyway, that's my two pesewas this week. Dunning-Kruger effect. Okay.
All right then.
That's it. Shout outs to everybody. See you next week and take care.
Bye.